In this video, I'm going to talk about the different kinds of teaching jobs that you'll get in Korea, and most importantly, some pitfalls and dangers that you can find once you get started working here. If this is your first time working as a teacher in Korea, you're usually going to end up with one of two different kinds of jobs. The first one is a public school job, and the second kind is a hagwan, or a private school academy type teaching job. Now, I don't know exactly firsthand about public school jobs because I've always worked at an academy, but everything I'm telling you is stuff that I've learned in my almost 2 years of teaching here in Korea, and I've heard from many of my friends who have public school teaching jobs. Many people that come here and teach in public schools come here on the EPIC program. That is basically the Korean government hiring teachers to fill teaching jobs at public schools. Those teaching jobs at public schools, that's the most secure teaching job you can get here in Korea. Those are your best bet. Those are your safest teaching jobs. I say that because that is, in my opinion, the most normal situation. You have 20 to 30 students in your classes. You may or may not have a Korean co-teacher. Working hours are usually sometime between 9 in the morning and 3 or 4 in the afternoon, with lunch and breaks in between. You get lunch with the school, and you usually have an apartment that's paid for, and you get paid on a regular consistent basis, whether it's every couple weeks or once a month. You get a winter break and you get a summer break of varying lengths. Usually it's a few weeks. There are just a few drawbacks with that job. My friends tell me sometimes they have desk warming hours where during the winter break or during the summer break they have to go to the school and basically sit at their desk even though the school is closed. And there's no class, there's no students, so you just have to sit at your desk, and it kind of screws up your vacationing plans. Now, I don't know if that's everybody, but that's just one drawback that I've actually heard quite a few times. But other than that stuff, the public school job is really the most secure teaching job that you can get here in Korea. Now, on the other hand, you can get a job at a private school or an academy, what they call a hagwan. We don't have a hagwan culture in America, where I'm from. You have to think of it like if after school you go to karate lessons, or if you have piano lessons, or if you go back to some kind of learning after you're done with school. Just imagine that being in a classroom with another 10 or 15 kids. That's what it's like here in Korea. So after public school, the kids go home for whatever, half an hour or an hour, then they go right back to private school. So they're in class for another 2 or 3 hours. And even in high school, those kids come home at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. That's how it is here. Now, the thing with a private institute is that's just it. It's private. There's a private owner, and it's run like a business. Here in Korea, every corner, every neighborhood, they really have the same stores. They have the bakery, they have the pizza place, they have the fried chicken place, the little Korean bar, the cell phone store, the hair salon, the 7-Eleven, karate studio, and they have hagwans. They have the math hagwan, the English hagwan, depending on how big the neighborhood is. All neighborhoods seem to have those things. So the thing to keep in mind is that hagwan, that private school there on the corner, it's a business, just like the pizza place, just like the fried chicken place, and they're looking for a profit. If they're not making any money, then there's a big problem. Very few places in Korea are there for a long time. If they're making money, then they'll stay there. If they're not making money, the shop clears out and a new shop is in there within 2 weeks, or even 1 week sometimes. They tear a shop down and the new shop is open for business within a week. And a lot of times that happens to hagwans. Now, from some of my friends, I've heard about their negative experiences at hagwans, and I'll try to share those stories and information with you so that you can watch out for some bad things that could happen to you. Usually at a hagwan, your hours are in the afternoon and in the evening after public school is done. So hagwan hours are usually 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. or sometimes they're 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. That's the range. And the thing with a hagwan job is it could be great. It could be fantastic. You could get a hagwan job with a really good school where the parents are very wealthy and the students are really good students, and your boss is really nice and takes care of you and feeds you and gives you a great apartment. You could get hagwan jobs like that. There are plenty out there. But also with a hagwan, in a sense, you're rolling the dice because you could end up with a hagwan that is going to have problems. Sometimes you get a job at a private school or a hagwan and the boss just isn't a good boss. Some bad stories I heard, the boss didn't like the foreigner teacher and tried to make things really hard, made them teach 7 or 8 classes straight in a row without having like an hour off, hoping that they'd quit. If you quit early, then you don't get your 13th month pay. When you sign a contract to be a teacher in Korea, you're most likely going to sign a 1-year contract, a 1-year agreement, that they pay you every month, and at the end of your 12 months, you get an extra paycheck. You get a 13th month, which is called a severance pay. If a hagwan is low on money, they might look for ways to get you out of the contract, because they can't just fire you for no reason. You can also look at the other Korean teachers in your hagwan. If they're having problems, if they're quitting or they're dropping out, something's not right with the school. Another shady thing about these contracts is they're not real legal contracts. When you sign an agreement with a school, it's almost like a handshake agreement. It's just an agreement between you and the school or the school's boss. It's not an illegal document that you can enforce and take to court. And to be quite honest, you don't want to get in a situation where you need a lawyer or you have to take that contract to court. So you want to do your best to avoid any of these problems ahead of time. That's hard to do, but I'll talk about some things you can do to try to avoid it. You need to see the warning signs early before you get yourself in deep trouble. If you start teaching at your school and you have 10 or 15 kids in your hagwan classes, that's great, but then you might get some kids that are not good students. You might be really happy if they quit the school. But you have to be careful. If your classes are dwindling down from 15 to 10 students down to 5 or 2 or 1 student in your class, you might think it's great because your teaching job is easy, but that's really an alarm going off. That is a warning sign. Your school is probably not making any money, and there's some major problems that are coming down the line. A lot of Koreans don't like confrontation. Sometimes they're not straight shooters. They're very shy. They want to save face. They don't want to be embarrassed. So they don't tell you things ahead of time. And if there's problems, you really don't know about it until the last minute. If your boss at some point asks you or says to you that he or she needs some time to pay you, like an extra week to pay you, that is a major warning sign. The problem is there's not a lot of students at the school and they don't have a lot of money. And usually that problem doesn't correct itself very quickly. If that situation happens, you might have to get out of there and sacrifice that extra severance pay at the end of the year just to, keep your sanity and keep from working in a school that is, running out of gas. Now, there are a lot of teaching jobs here in Korea. As long as the Korean government and schools value English as a major subject, then there's always going to be teaching jobs here. Although I did hear that in the Seoul area, they are cutting a lot of epic public school teaching jobs to the tune of 400 or 500 at one time. So that might make it more difficult to get a job. Even though Korea is not a big country, it is pretty big as far as so many schools are looking for native-speaking English teachers that you don't necessarily have to have experience. You can learn on the job here, and just being enthusiastic and speaking English well and motivating Korean students to learn English, that's really a big reason why they want you to come here, and they're willing to pay you a lot of money and give you a free apartment to do that.